Alrighty, so we're at about 4 o'clock. I'll get started. My name is Greg Bulmash. I'm going to be speaking today on teaching tech to both kids and devs. This is interesting because I never thought it was an Agile thing, but we're in the Agile room. So we'll make it work. First off, I just left Avalara, but I got the greatest parting gift from them a little while ago, which was this video, and it'll sort of explain some of the stuff that I do. If it'll play. It's as loud as I can get it. Parabolic arcs by actually having them draw stuff in Minecraft. Parabolic arcs it means a lot more than drawing a parabolic arc on a piece of I don't know, can you guys hear? There we go. Basically, I'm talking to developers who want to build Avalara services into their product. One job is talking to people about code. I go out to Codeorg and I talk to people about code. It's not a good level. In the long run, all these departments be part of the tech economy and the tech community. So I want to do what I can to support that. My name is Greg Bulmash. I'm a developer and we'll do that. As of today, I'm not, but as of next week, I will be at Amazon. So I'll be talking to developers about different kinds of tech. And one of the great things is that in that room where all that class was happening, that Amazon's been one of our biggest supporters in Seattle and gives us room for 100 kids every Saturday morning that we ask for it, which has really been a great thing. So these are my credentials. I started out as a courseware developer for Nortel after I did a quick stint as a tech editor for a For Dummies book. Got hired on by IMDb as senior editor, wrote all sorts of stuff ranging from columns to revamping their entire help section, which they used for 4 years. Went to Microsoft more recently and was a programmer writer writing developer guidance for Internet Explorer and writing about web APIs. And since 2013, I've been the lead organizer and an instructor at Seattle Coder Dojo, which you just saw a video of. So I've done a lot of writing for adults, talking to adults about tech, and a lot of talking to kids about tech and teaching kids tech. And so what we're going to do here is we're going to break this up into 3 sections. We're going to do understanding the 2 audiences and some of their similarities and differences. Then we're going to go to prep and planning your presentation or course. And then we'll do a little bit on doing the teaching. So whatever your audience, one of the things you have to think about is their motivation. What is their reason for learning the topic? What is their reason for attending a class? And you might think that there are differences, where kids are going to have more of a curiosity and more of a, they're there to just for the joy of learning, while devs are there because they got to learn it for work or something. You actually find out there's a whole range of things. You have kids who are there because their parents are making them be there. And you have kids who are there because they're just super excited. And you have devs who are there because they got to learn it for work. And you have devs who are there because this is something that really interests them and they're super excited. So that's one of the areas where they actually converge. Now, the reason for taking the class as opposed to going and taking some online courseware. Quite often, these are the same for both audiences as well. One is to have someone help when you hit a wall. Because if you run into a bug, you run into an install issue, whatever, going online and searching for help can be a frustrating experience. And having somebody right there who can help you solve the problem is very useful and very helpful. Second, to have someone else set the pace. Have any of you started an online tutorial that you did not finish? Okay. Having somebody else set the pace, having somebody else say, show up on Saturday morning, come to the class, here's your assignment. Sometimes for people, that is a way to keep them on track. We actually have 5 teens who are doing the online developer certification through CodeCamp right now, free CodeCamp. And we still have them come in on Saturdays, and they have a discussion group, and we have one of our mentors leading it. And he checks in with them via email every week to make sure that they are keeping to their schedule. Because quite often, that's something that people need. And the last thing is to join a face-to-face learning community. It is helpful to have that camaraderie, to be in it with somebody else that you can identify, that you have met and you know. So these are the reasons that people come to classes, and quite often it's the same for kids and for devs. But there's one more I forgot to add here. For kids, the parents don't know how to help them. So they're bringing them right there again once to have somebody to help, because kids are less able to help themselves get through an online course than adults are. They just don't know the resources. Now, once again here, you talk about knowing the basics. Devs are going to know things that kids just don't. One of the things that we take for granted is, I will have kids copying code from a slide or something. And there will be kids who see a double quotes and they put 2 single quotes in because they think that's how you make it. And then their code breaks and it's like, oh, you have to explain to them. It's that basic. And so when you're working with kids, you've got to understand that a lot of them don't even have the basics. And also, most 7-year-olds don't touch type. What? Why aren't we teaching kindergartners to keyboard? Actually, we are now. We didn't used to, but we are now. But still, with devs, you can give them more assignments that are going to be code heavy because they can type. Kids, you want to do stuff where they're editing existing code more because they can't. And if you try and get a kid to type in a page of code, that's the day sometimes. Now, this is one of the things I talk about with devs. I've experienced it firsthand because I am a terrible, terrible student. I come in, I think I know what I'm doing, and rush through the instructions and end up screwing something up that I then have to debug when I'm a student in a class. And a lot of devs can be like that. Because they think they know what they're doing, they don't pay as much attention. The kids will tend to be more pouring through the instructions while the devs will rush through because doctors are bad patients. Now, this is an interesting, I thought about making a joke about this being for adults, but the real thing that you gotta learn is that with kids, you will run into kids who are just so brilliant. They just get the tech. And, there's this one kid at Coder Dojo that we're always saying, we're all gonna be working for him in 10 years. But he's 10. He's 10, and as much as he can grasp complicated technical concepts, as much as he reads these books and outpaces us, we have to remember that he's still gonna get cranky if he doesn't have a snack. That he has 10-year-old emotions, even though he may have a 20 or 25-year-old's intellect. And it's easy to fall into the trap of thinking that because a kid is really smart, that they're as emotionally advanced as they are technically advanced. And you've got to not fall into that trap. Now, well, I think I'm going faster through this than I expected. We'll go into the prep and planning. Yes, she finished in 45 minutes. I'm trying to see if I can finish faster. So once again, we go to motivation. Why are we here? You know, are they looking for practical information that they can put to use right away? Are they looking for an overview, just an introduction to something so they can get a sense of it? When you're prepping your course, you have to understand what your audience is looking for so you can deliver it. You know, and in terms of practical knowledge, you definitely are going to need hands-on instruction. Now, especially when you don't have hands-on exercises where they're actually working with code, you still need to keep them engaged. So one of the great things is audience participation. Can anybody think of ways you can encourage audience participation? Ask questions, exactly. Snacks. We have some of her leftover fortune cookies up here. They're awesome. I also brought this chocolate that's got wasabi in it that'll blow your head off if you're interested. But you can engage them. Our last game design class, instead of coding, we actually sat down and discussed what makes a good game. Because you can learn the technical aspects of building games all you want, but if you don't know what makes a good game, it won't be fun. So we talked about what makes games fun. Now you're going to have two kinds of learners. You have procedural versus conceptual. Now, there's a lot of talk in the educational world about learning styles. Are they visual? Are they auditory? Are they tactile? That kind of stuff. There are a lot of articles also out there just debunking that there's no actual proof that tailoring things works that way. You really want to sort of tailor it to what you're teaching. Because if they're learning how to use Outlook, they need to know the steps. They don't need to know why Outlook does something some way. But if they're learning to program in Python, they need to know why Python does something some way. They need to know how JavaScript handles scope versus another programming language handling scope if they've got experience in one and not the other. So if you're teaching something that requires depth, you need to go with conceptual. But if you're teaching something where they are just learning a task, you need to give them step-by-step instructions, and any sort of going into why those are the steps. A lot of people are going to be like, why do I even need to know this? Also, you want to offer motivators for them to get to the end. So we have, certificates of completion, which, kids can hang on their wall, which devs can show to their bosses. Attendance swag, I did bring some stickers. Kristen brought fortune cookies. Prizes get attention with adults because I don't know how many of you have been to like a company meeting where one of the sales guys is doing their presentation and they're giving out $20 bills. Anybody? Yeah. Yeah. With kids, they tend to take more offense if they don't get a prize. We actually had a kid, it was very early on. We were doing a bingo, we had written up a little bingo board in HTML5 and we were showing them how to write a bingo ball picker in JavaScript. And that was when we were being hosted by the Microsoft Store, and the Microsoft Store gave us a whole bunch of Microsoft swag, little basketballs and coffee mugs and backpacks. And so once we wrote up the bingo ball picker, we played bingo until the end of the class. And every time somebody won, they got a prize. Well, that was about 3 out of 19 kids. And I actually had one of the parents contact me afterwards and said my kid was very upset that he didn't get to win a prize, and he doesn't want to come anymore. Okay? And there are two ways to react to that. There is the acceptable way because it's not your job to parent this child. You say, well, if that's the way you feel. And then there's the other way where you want to go, oh my God. I don't know. You will run into kids who lose motivation because they didn't get a prize. And you're better off not giving prizes at all, rather than giving them to a few. It's either all or none. So with devs, you're not going to have devs who are walking out and quitting going, I didn't get a 20. I didn't get a I'm going to Amazon. That's it. But with kids, that might happen. It's happened to me. So keep an eye on that. Now, this is very interesting to me because when you start thinking about the hardware requirements for your class, your average dev is going to have a more modern machine either that they bought or work bought for them. Many kids will have hand-me-down equipment. They're going to have, we have had kids come to class with PowerBook G4s. They were trying to do a Flash-based activity. Unfortunately, Adobe had stopped making universal binaries for the G4 chip for Flash, and they were sort of out of luck. They had one of our mentors loan them their laptop for the rest of the class. But kids will come with old hardware, with old operating systems on them. They will also come with one laptop for 3 kids because the family has one. And so you have to think about how those kids are going to share that laptop. One of the things that we do at Coder Dojo is we actually have gotten local businesses to donate laptops that are off lease that they were going to recycle. We have about 20 that we can actually put the kids on, either actually we put Linux on them, either Linux machines or Chromebooks. If they're just doing something web-based, Chromebooks cost very little, and it's a great way to have a couple of loaners on hand. Now, with required software, this is another thing that you got to think about. Devs are better about pre-installing, following the directions that you send them before the course so that they come in and they have the software on their machine already. The kids, if their parents read through the whole set of bullet points when they bought the ticket, you're lucky. Their parents are rushing through, they're like, oh, this looks like something great for the kid, and that's it, and maybe they look at the email and go, oh yeah, you know, the reminder email says, come on Saturday, and they're like, oh yeah, come on Saturday. And then they send me an email going, where do you park? Well, it was on the page where you signed up for the ticket, it's on the reminder email. They don't read that far in to find out where they park. So you're gonna have a lot of kids coming in without stuff installed. You need to schedule installation time. Yes?
I just wanted to say that in my experience, even developers,
Mm-hmm.
if you send them pre-install stuff, 60% is what you get.
With kids, you get about 30.
Right, I'm just saying, and
so.
the problem is the ones that actually spend the time getting set up are the ones that get dinged when it's the first time.
Well, it depends on whether or not you're going to, you know, I have actually, you know, with some workshops said, come pre-installed because we're going to start on the assumption that you are. And so if you have any trouble, come early. And that's been helpful. But, you know, there have been some people who are, you know, doing last minute installs. And we usually put a mentor aside because the first part of the class is just an introduction. We have a mentor aside who can help them, but it depends on how complex the installation is. When we're doing Minecraft modding, getting them set up with a Minecraft server and the Minecraft client, we basically schedule one whole session of the 6-session program for getting the kids set up. And that's another thing. You have to ask, are accounts needed? Because this is an interesting thing that we've discovered. It's a pitfall. If you are going to get, let's say I wanted all of you right now to sign up for an account at some service, what do you think is going to happen? No, what's going to happen is all these people signing up for an account at the same time from the same Wi-Fi IP. Yeah, the spam filters will start throwing people out. We'll start blocking them. We'll start running, you know, might even just, you know, block the IP, and all of a sudden nobody can access the site. And they're like, is the internet down? No, we can access other sites. So when you really need to, like, you know, send extra reminders if you need people to have an account on a service. You need to, like, stress it, and send extra reminders so that they do it before they get there. Because if you have everybody trying to sign up at the same time, you run into problems. And we've run into problems with that a lot. Another thing that you run into with kids is, who here knows what COPPA is? Okay. It's the Child Online Privacy and Protection Act. And it is the thing that makes Google say no kid under 13 should have a Gmail address. And it makes a lot of companies not want to give accounts to kids under 13. So either the kids are coming in without an email address, or the parents are trying to sign up. Once again, 3 kids, 1 laptop, 3 kids, 1 parent's email. And this becomes even more difficult if, say, whatever they're doing requires a credit card for the account. Like we were trying to do a thing where you'd set up your Minecraft server on DigitalOcean. So we'd set up your Minecraft server in the cloud. We'd get past a lot of the incompatibility issues with people on all that old hardware and everything. But then we had parents with 2 or 3 kids. And DigitalOcean was saying, oh, no, you already signed up for an account with that credit card. You can't sign up another account with that credit card. While every dev in the room might have a credit or a debit card, when you've got kids and you've got families, you have to think about the fact that there's going to be 1 parent using 1 email address or 1 credit card for multiple kids, and whether or not that works. Because it really hurts when it happens in class and you're trying to work around it and get everybody set up. Luckily, I had a bunch of accounts set up, so I loaned kids accounts, which I spun up servers and loaned them the servers and then destroyed them after the class. But it can be difficult. Another thing is fuzz every step. Do everything wrong. Because, and try to do everything in as many wrong ways as you possibly can, so that you know how the stuff that you're working with is going to react, because there will be people who do it wrong. It will be syntax errors. They will do things in the wrong order. They will leave 1 parameter off of an instruction, like a get instruction, and all of a sudden they're like, in get hell, and you're trying to figure out how to back them out. So you want to make sure that you are prepared for these wrong things. You probably aren't going to be prepared for all of them, but the more you're prepared for, the smoother the class runs. Because if the kid or the dev goes, oh, whoa, I'm having this error. You go, oh, that's because, here's how you fix it. Instead of, wow, I've never seen that before. That's not going to be fun for anybody. Supplements, you want to have learning aids for in class. You want to have handouts for after class. There should be a book, there should be a blog post, there should be a GitHub repo that they can access during class. So they can get access, they can follow, usually when I'm doing a class for kids, I will have a blog post with all the instructions on what they're doing. And they can follow along with the blog post. So if, for example, a message comes in on their parent's phone or something distracts them, and they fall a half second behind everybody else, they can catch up. That's really important, because have any of you ever been in a class where the teacher is just blazing through and you missed a step and now you're lost? Anybody? So having that document to sort of like speed catch up on is going to be very useful. And, back before everybody had GitHub repos, we were taught have handouts. Now you can just make sure that they bookmark your repo, bookmark your blog post. But you might also want to have something on it for them to follow up with after class, because there is the element that you want them to continue this. If they just come to class and they learn this and they don't reinforce that learning, it's going to go away like high school Spanish. You just, you'll know, ¿Dónde está el baño? And that's about it. So you want to have the kids or the devs working with this afterwards, and so you want to give them suggestions and ideas for working with it after the class. Now with doing the teaching, there are some people who are just really naturally funny, and they can pull it off. If you're not naturally funny, don't try too hard. because then it comes out as forced, and then it becomes as creepy as that clown is getting. The more you look at it, the creepier it gets. Don't be that clown. And when you're in the class, there are going to be two types of questions that are asked. One is where the dev or the child really wants to know something. The other is going to be a question they already know the answer to that they're asking to show you that they know the answer to it. Have you ever been in a class and you've seen somebody like that? I am too, sadly. If I'm not raising my hand, I'm just making, like comments. And I don't like me as a student. That's why I teach most of the time. So be aware of those and think about how you will deal with the people who are asking the ones to demonstrate knowledge, because you don't want them to dominate the class. It's not just the ones who are like always have their hands up, and then you're like trying to pick people who don't have their hands up. You want to sort of encourage them to help others rather than draw attention. Now, this is a very important part. Adults are more likely to speak up when they're having trouble than kids are, but not necessarily. They have a little bit more confidence, but there are people who don't ask questions because they're afraid of looking stupid. There are also going to be people who don't ask questions because they are deathly afraid of speaking in public. And even speaking out in the class provokes anxiety in them like you wouldn't believe. So one of the things we do is we ask parents to stay with their kids. If their kid is quiet, if their kid is not engaging, we ask them to stay with their child and to advocate for their child. Because they know their kid best. And they can raise their hand and ask a question on the child's behalf, and that alleviates a lot of anxiety for the child, and it gets the child the answers that they need. With devs, you have to be more, especially when you have the hands-on stuff, you see the ones who are quiet but are looking a little concerned. And you make sure to go to them during the hands-on periods and just ask them a question. Most importantly, ask them an open-ended question. Let me see, I wrote an open-ended question down. So where are you at? What are you working on? Because if you say, do you need help? What's the answer? No. How you doing? Fine, I'm good. Ask them an open-ended question that they can't answer in just one or two words. And that's actually not just from teaching that. I learned that when I was selling big screens at Circuit City. Because if a customer comes in, can I help you? No. What are you looking for? Ask them an open-ended question that gets them to talk to you. Wow, I am like going, when I practiced this last night, I was rambling, so it took so much longer. We're near the end. So this is another presentation tip I learned a long time ago. This is actually the end of the presentation. And this is an interesting thing. You are your student's teacher, not their parent, not their manager. There's only so much you can do to keep them engaged, to keep them on track. At the end, you can't make yourself responsible for everything. You are their teacher. And so, one of the things is you'll see a lot in politics is the politicians blaming the teachers for the kids who aren't doing well. But the kids need support outside of the classroom. They need more support from their parents. And sometimes, it's not like they even come from a bad home or something. It's just that their parents are distracted and didn't realize that they're not completing their homework assignments. And so a smart kid is doing bad, and you have a number of kids in your class, a number of devs in your class. You can't be on top of this one going, where's your homework? Let's have a meeting about your homework. And so the kid misses out. So You can talk to their parents, but you can't be their parent. And you have to remember that, because otherwise it will cause you way more anguish than you realize. So that's the end of the presentation, which I thought was going to take way longer. Here's the stuff if you want to keep in touch. And I do have Ninja Kitten via Code Ninja stickers for anybody who wants them, take them back to their kids or for their own selves, right up here. So does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, I have a question. You were talking about, you talked about Minecraft mods and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Are you doing that in person? Like,
Yeah, in a classroom setting.
do they do that here in the area?
I don't know about the Atlanta area. I'm from Seattle. So we do that at Amazon. We use, actually, they actually did the same Minecraft modding environment that we did here in the DevNexus Kids section that they did on, I think, Sunday. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's catered. I know it has summer camp for code camp, and one of them was Minecraft. Yeah, it's not like my son likes to code. He loves Minecraft. And I mentioned that to him before. I didn't know they actually had classes right. They probably sell other parts of the
They have online courses to provide everything. They also do a summer camp in the summer, and they do it in multiple areas, and they plan on doing it in other schools.
What was the name of the
Digital.
Yeah, there are a number, and then, so was asking, she was talking about Youth Digital, which does Minecraft camps. There's also a really great book. The framework that they used for the Minecraft lessons here is called ScriptCraft JS. And it was actually created by a Coder Dojo dad in Ireland by the name of Walter Higgins. And he had heard about the fact that there is a JavaScript interpreter built into Java. And he's like, wow, I wonder if I could expose the Java server, the Minecraft server APIs in Java to JavaScript and make a JavaScript modding language that was a lot simpler. And he, luckily in Ireland, they get like 6 weeks vacation. He figured it out. And he's been building on it and building on it, and he recently published a book. So it's called ScriptCraft JS, and you can find it at scriptcraftjs.org. And it's a really great thing, and then he's got a book out, I think it's with Peachpit, about using ScriptCraft as a way of learning JavaScript. And so when we did our first ScriptCraft JS class, we expected the kids to have reached a certain level of JavaScript on Khan Academy. The next time we did it, we said that this was a beginner class and you would learn to program. We would get you set up and you would learn to program in Minecraft. And, whoa, it sold out in like 3 minutes. 60 seats. So, a lot of fun. Yes? I think Code.org is the greatest thing since sliced bread for beginners. We have one room at our Coder Dojo that is dedicated to just running the hour of code every week for new kids. You guys have all heard of the hour of code, I'm assuming. Every year, second week of December, Computer Science Education Week. A lot of big companies get behind it. Microsoft promotes it. Everybody's promoting it. They've got corporate partners like Disney. So they've got Barack Obama did part of one of their tutorials in 2014, where he did part of the Anna and Elsa Frozen programming tutorial. So it's gotten pretty big. It's based out of Seattle. We actually had Hadi Partavi come and talk to our group. My favorite bit of it was when a teenage girl asked him, what does it take to make Portal? You guys know the game Portal? He had the best answer I've ever heard. 50 people in 2 years. So he expanded on that, but it was really great to sort of, set expectations. We use Code.org whenever, we have a ritual when a new kid comes into the dojo where we ask them about their programming experience. We call it the sorting hat. And we determine which room they should go into, whether they're ready to go into the Scratch room, whether their Scratch is too basic for them and they need to jump up to a written language, or if they're just brand new, we go Code.org room. We love Code.org because it gives the kids a chance to get comfortable with the concepts in a way that is really gentle. So they get some early wins and they get some confidence before they have to start typing anything and getting real bad syntax errors that nobody can figure out. Anybody else? Yes.
So, how do you tell a kid he's not a kid anymore? He's not really Code.org.
Usually, we let the parents and the kids make that decision. If they ask us for guidance, we say, if you've done like 2 or 3 of the exercises, you're ready for the Scratch room, at least. And if the kid's really sort of, just jamming, we say, and they're older, and they're a decent typist, we move them up to JavaScript. But Scratch is scratch.mit.edu. It's a great teaching tool for code. It's all drag and drop. The kids build programs like they're building with Legos. And they can get pretty deep into it. We've gotten to the point where we've got some Scratch room lifers and we've had to start an advanced Scratch room. Because some of the kids are building stuff that we didn't even think was possible in Scratch when we first started offering it. Yes?
Do you have any suggestions as things that motivate kids, specifically that, let's say are not very interested in coding, like what can kind of make them excited about it? And also, do you have any thoughts about boys versus girls, like would there be, something more special about motivating girls?
I think the trick is, we can't necessarily motivate girls to come to Coder Dojo. We try to do outreach. We go to Geek Girl Con and some other girl-focused events to try and get more girls to come to Coder Dojo. The biggest thing you can do is that, there is a difference in personality between young girls and young boys are more aggressive. And so you do have to sort of balance the two. You can't just, smack down the boys, but you have to make sure that you're addressing the girls and you're giving them attention so that they don't feel like they're just being steamrolled by the boys. Because that's usually, that in the beginning was a complaint we would get from some of the moms that, especially when we would have hardware, is that the boys would just crowd around the hardware and block the girls out. And the girls didn't feel comfortable about pushing their way in. And so sometimes we had to make the space. As for getting kids interested in coding, it's carrot and, I wouldn't say carrot and stick, but you got to give them something that is interesting to them. So if they're Minecraft maniacs, getting them into a Minecraft modding class where they're actually going to get to be able to learn how to write a line of code that creates a world-destroying block of TNT. That they can write a 5-line mod that can blow a deep pit in the ground, or spawn an ender dragon, or do all sorts of things that they can then control. One of my WoW demos is I have a mod that makes pyramids of animals, and so you just have these. You just type in pyramid, and boom, there's a pyramid of pigs, and then I can type in, pyramid, cow, and then a size, and it'll make that many levels. And they just stand still. And you talk to them about, hey, you know how you make them stand still? Well, in this particular server, you tell them to ride themselves. And kids are like, you tell the cow to ride itself and that makes it stand still? Yeah, it's a bug, but it's a bug you can exploit. And they enjoy that. And you make things fun because none of our demos are, here's how you build a bookstore database in Minecraft. When I teach event handling, the event handling lesson is called chicken mining. And so we teach them how to set up an event listener for the block break event. We then teach them how to get the data from the block break event and learn where it happened, where that block was. And then they spawn a chicken at that location. So once the whole thing is listening, every time they break a block, it's replaced with a chicken. Thus, chicken mining. And so then some of the kids who are really interested then go, ooh, how do I make lightning strike that place? How do I do? And then their minds are going, and you got it.
But the Minecraft data focus, for example, for complete beginners, like start teaching coding from scratch.
Yes, you actually, that's what Walter Higgins' book is about. You write your hello world in Minecraft with, echo hello world. And from there you build on. They start doing, 2 plus 2. You start doing the math functions. You start defining how a string works. Then later you can get into objects because you can spawn an animal into a string and, and because of the way objects work in JavaScript, and then address the animal by the string name. So you'd say Bob equals spawn this animal, and it returns a pointer to that object, and then you say Bob.setMotionY, and that will set Bob in motion vertically. And if the Y value is too high, Bob will not survive the fall. So usually if you're going to do that, you do it with a spider because the kids don't feel bad about the spiders not surviving the fall. But you can teach them things like that, and all of a sudden they're realizing, hey, so this is sort of a way of me creating a pig and naming it Bob. Bob is, they grasp it. And so we've brought kids up, we did kids, we said you had to be at level 8 on Khan Academy, and that worked great. And we got into looping and all sorts of other stuff with, making it rain flaming cows and getting into actually digging into the Java docs for the methods in the server. But in the class where we said all beginners, we literally, showed them how to start using methods on an object. There's an object called the drone object where they can use the drone's castle method and it will build a castle. And so they learn about commands and they learn about methods and they learn about the basics and then they can move on up. But the great thing is within a session or two, they're making dance floors and rainbows and castles because they're getting results. They're not, when I was a kid, your first program after Hello World was a program that asked you what your name was. Instead, now they're going to write a program that gets your name from the system and tells you and says hello to you. And then they're going to dig a pit and they're going to spawn a chicken in it, or they're going to make a rainbow or a whole bunch of rainbows. And they're just going to build, but they're going to build with code and learn things as they go. So there's a lot of reward there, and it's fairly regular. Yes?
So how do we set up one of these JavaScript Minecraft servers ourselves? Got instructions somewhere?
Well, there's at ScriptCraftJS.org. He gives all the instructions you need. There are 2 servers that ScriptCraft supports. The more interesting one would probably be to use Spigot, because Spigot is widely supported. It's got a whole modding community in the Java community as well. So you've got all the people who are making Java mods for it, and really ScriptCraft is just a Java mod that gives you another modding interface. And so there's a really huge community with Spigot. The other one that he was working on was Canary Mod, but in July of last year, the maintainers of Canary Mod said, we're tired. So Spigot is the latest and greatest. And you need to have, either a paid copy of Minecraft, which is $27, or you need to hack it. He doesn't give instructions on how to hack it. And the server is free. Anybody else? Yes? Well, we have parents who are like, can I bring my 5-year-old? And there are exercises for 5-year-olds on code.org, but eventually, and they can play with, there's a Scratch Junior for them, but eventually younger kids will reach a point where they're roadblocked because they don't have the math or the logic. The moment they start building, certain things, they start getting into Cartesian coordinates, which to us, X and Y is nothing. To a 6-year-old, X and Y is, whoa. So different groups recommend different ages. We found that at about 8, they've got enough math from our local school system that they can pretty much grasp what they need to grasp. Yes? What we say is we say 8 to 18, but if you want to bring your 7-year-old, you believe your 7-year-old is ready, we're not going to check his ID. So
Once they're 19, they're out.
once they're 19, they teach. Once they're 19, they come back and they mentor. We start turning kids into mentors at around 11 or 12, actually, because the really, really advanced ones actually get something from teaching. And not only that, but especially if they're, because, if they're ready to technically to teach at 11 or 12, maybe their social skills aren't as good, and we can have our mentors work with them on being more gentle and open with the kids that they're helping, and that helps them with their social skills and turns them into more nurturing, helpful people. Yes?
I think you at the beginning said that you also did some robotics.
We don't do that as often because we don't have as many people. We had every year, last year they did an International NodeBots Day for Node.js controlled robotics using the Cylon JS and Johnny 5 JS. And so we decided to set up a day around that. And so we had 4 rooms where the kids were working on stuff. The first room, they were programming Sphero robots with Cylon JS. And we had the person who runs the Node School IO meetup in Seattle teaching that. Then we got a bunch of Intel Edison boards, which are like Arduinos on steroids, and Seed Grove Arduino kits. And Intel came in with one of their mentors, and one of our mentors worked together and taught that. We had a group of teenagers who were working to put on a 3D design hackathon at one of the local colleges. Come in and teach 3D design, because if you're going to build a robot, you not only need to know how to program it, you need to know how to shape it and build it. And then the last thing we did was Code.org actually has an advanced tutorial with Grok Learning where you build an AI chatbot like Eliza in Python. So that was the last room. They did that Code.org lesson. So every kid had an hour in each room. And we just circulated them through and had a lunch break. It was a 5-hour thing.
So it kind of sounds like JavaScript wrote one of the most appropriate kind of languages.
We start with it because it is the cheapest, easiest language to start with. It runs in every browser. All you need is a browser and Notepad to get started. You can run it. There are a bunch of web-based tools, JS Fiddle, all sorts of IDEs where you can run JavaScript. And it has one of the fastest 0 to hello worlds There is. You open up the console in a browser, you type alert hello world. So it gives the kids a way to get a quick win, and then they can start building stuff in HTML, JavaScript that helps them make games. So we've had a JavaScript gaming class. We've also done a JavaScript mobile apps class with Cordova. And it's just that all this stuff is online. So it really doesn't matter whether they're on Mac or Linux or Windows. We can use online tools. It doesn't matter if their computer's a little old. As long as they can run Chrome, they can do it. Because, you know, if they're on Windows XP, they can run Chrome, but they're limited to IE8, which is... I worked for Microsoft, but none of us pretended that IE8 was anything but old and clunky. Yes? Would you? Oh, yeah, I thought I saw you raise your hand. So are there any other questions? Yes?
One kind of question that when you're teaching kids to code Minecraft, are you client-side mods or server-side mods?
Okay, so I've been forgetting to repeat your questions. You asked if they were client-side mods or server-side mods. These are server-side mods.
So all you need is like Xbox client next to the server.
No, Xbox clients don't connect to these kinds of servers, I believe. You need the PC Mac version of Minecraft for that because, yeah, we investigated that because when I was at Microsoft, I could get Xbox licenses for $10 a pop. But more importantly, the great thing is that while they're messing around with their server, they can do it on localhost. It's not discoverable from the web until they actually start pushing it out. And so they can operate in this environment without anybody coming in and griefing them or anything like that. It's a very safe environment to play in. And they can take it, and if they've got it installed on their computer, they can take it home. They don't need anything special. Once they've been shown how to use it in class, they can just, boom, run with it. So, anything else? Going once, going twice, going a third time. All right, we are done. Thank you very much for all your questions. And sorry I ran short. Like I said, we have a few stickers from our Seattle Coder Dojo here. They're actually fun. One is Ninja Kittens and says, "Be a Code Ninja." So, yes, they're right here. Mhm. So.
I certainly don't want to do that, but they're good cookies.
Enjoy. I brought it. Feel free to take a piece. It's spicy.
That's what I was hoping.
Yeah.
Don't take a big piece.
Yeah. Take a small bite first, because
Or cookie.
it's sneaky.
And we'll just watch you.